My name is Robinson, I am from England, and I am 18 years old. My father is German, and my mother is English. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. We are a happy and close family. My father is a successful businessman, and we have a comfortable life. I go to a good school, and everything seems perfect. But deep inside, I have a dream to travel and see the world. My father is a kind man who wants the best for me. However, my dream is not the same as his. He wants me to stay home, study, and live a safe life. When I tell him about my desire to travel, he is not happy. This makes things difficult for me. One morning, my father asks to speak with me in his room. I feel nervous but curious. When I enter, he looks serious. "Why do you want to travel, Robinson?" he asks. "Traveling is dangerous. It is not comfortable. You could get hurt. Or worse." His words make me stop and think. He is right, traveling is dangerous. I could face many problems. But despite this, I feel excited. I want to see new places, meet new people, and experience different cultures. I cannot stop thinking about it. Maybe my mother can help me. Later that day, I go to her and share my thoughts. "Mother, I want to travel. I want to see the world. Please, talk to Father for me. Maybe he will listen to you." She smiles softly but looks worried. "I love you, Robinson, but I agree with your father. The world is dangerous, and your place is here at home. Life in England is safe and good for you." A year passes by, but my desire to travel only grows stronger. One day, I visit a large town called Hull. There, I meet one of my friends. His father owns a ship, and they are preparing to sail to London. "Come with us, Robinson," my friend says with excitement. I hesitate. I am not ready, but something inside me whispers, "Try it." This could be my chance to see if traveling is for me. I decide to go. As the ship sails toward London, I feel a wave of happiness. This is my first long journey, and everything feels exciting and new. For the first hour, the sea is calm, and the weather is perfect. I enjoy the fresh air and the view of the open water, but suddenly, dark clouds gather, and the wind grows stronger. A terrible storm appears, and the ship begins to shake. I hold on to the side, my heart racing. The dream I longed for now feels terrifying. This is just the beginning of my adventure. The storm is big, the wind is strong, and the ship goes up and down like a toy in the water. I feel afraid. My heart beats fast, and I think about home, my warm, comfortable bed in my quiet room. By morning, the storm is over. The sky is clear, and the sun shines. The evening is beautiful and calm. Everything is quiet now. A man walks over to me. We start talking about the storm. I tell him how scared I was. He listens carefully and then hands me a drink. I drink a lot, and soon, I feel warm and relaxed. That night, I sleep deeply. The next day, I no longer think about home or my soft bed. Instead, I dream even more about traveling. The next day, the wind is weak, and our ship moves slowly across the calm sea. But soon, the wind returns, and we start moving faster. Suddenly, another storm comes. This storm is much bigger than the first one. The sky turns dark, and the waves grow high like mountains. I feel scared again, and I can see that the other men are scared too. I look at the sea and spot other ships in the distance. They look so small, like toys floating on the water. The waves toss them around. I wish I were home again. The storm gets worse. Some of the men on our ship begin to pray and ask God for help. Then, someone shouts, "There is a hole in the ship." Water starts coming inside. The situation is bad. Many men rush below deck to pump out the water. I stand frozen in fear, unable to move. A man approaches me. "Come on. We need help down there," he says. His voice pulls me back to reality. I nod and hurry below to join the others. We work hard, pumping as fast as we can. Suddenly, we hear a loud bang. It is the sound of a gun, a signal from the captain. The signal means there is a serious problem. The ship is badly damaged. Water is pouring in faster than we can pump it out. The men work tirelessly, but the hole is too big. The storm starts to calm, and the waves grow smaller, but our ship is already full of water. We need help, and soon, through the fog, we see another ship. The men on that ship send out a small boat toward us. One by one, we climb onto the boat and leave our broken ship behind. 15 minutes later, I sit on the deck of the other ship, cold but safe. I think to myself, this is just the beginning of my adventure. Our big ship sinks beneath the water. We are safe in the small boat, watching as the sea swallows our ship. After some time, we see land in the distance. The closer we get, the more clearly we can see people standing on the beach, waiting for us. When we arrive, they help us out of the boat and give us food, clothes, and even a little money. They tell us we can travel to London or Hull. I decide to go to London. When I arrive in London, I meet a sea captain. He tells me he is preparing for a journey to Africa. I listen carefully as he explains how I can make money by trading there. The captain teaches me about the business, what to buy in England and what people in Africa need the most. I decide to join him. The journey to Africa goes well, and I make a lot of money. I feel proud and excited about my success. This makes me want to travel even more. I dream of doing more business and learning how to control a ship. The captain notices my interest and starts teaching me how to sail. I learn quickly, and before long, I am ready for another trip to Africa. The second journey starts smoothly, and everything seems perfect. But soon, we see another ship on the horizon. It doesn't look like an English ship. As it gets closer, the crew begins to panic. It's a pirate ship. The pirate ship is fast, and before we know it, they are close to us. The pirates attack, storming our ship. They fight fiercely, and we try to defend ourselves. But the pirates are too strong. They kill many of our men, and we cannot win. The battle ends, and we surrender. Now, we are prisoners. I am young and strong, but now I must work as a slave. The pirate captain keeps me as his servant. My heart feels heavy, and sadness fills my days. I have no freedom, and life feels dark and hopeless. Every day, I work hard, cleaning the house, planting in the garden, and doing whatever the captain orders. I do not like this life. I want to escape. I want to be free again. One morning, while working in the house, I meet a young woman. She is also a slave, and she is very beautiful. She moves quietly as she cleans, but when she looks at me, her eyes light up. We do not speak the same language, but I feel that she understands me. Whenever I see her, I feel happier, and when she sees me, I can tell she feels the same, in this difficult place. She is the only light in my life. Sometimes, she touches my hand. It only lasts for a moment, but it feels special. I know that as slaves, we cannot be together. I think about the young woman often. I want to see her every day, but she is not always in the house. When I think about her, a warm feeling spreads through me. I believe I love her. In my heart, she is my girlfriend, and I am her boyfriend, but our love is difficult. We cannot be together, and it makes me sad. Sometimes, I go fishing with the captain or his friends. A young boy helps us, and we use a small boat. One morning, while fishing, fog surrounds us. We cannot see anything, and we get lost at sea. The next day, the fog lifts, and we find our way home. When we return, the captain says, "Next time, use a bigger boat. It's better for long journeys." A few days later, the captain asks me to prepare the bigger boat for fishing. Put more food and drinks on the boat. Bring some guns too, he orders. His friends are supposed to come with us. I do as he says, loading the food, water, and guns onto the boat. But later, the captain's friends change their minds and decide not to fish. The captain shrugs and says, "Prepare the boat for regular fishing tomorrow." Suddenly, I see a chance to escape. I leave the food and guns on the boat, knowing that tomorrow could be the day I run away. That night, I think about the young woman. I wish I could take her with me, but I don't know how. It seems impossible to bring her on the boat without being caught. My heart feels heavy. I long for freedom, but I also want to stay with her. The next morning, I see her in the house. She looks even more beautiful than usual. I stare at her, and she notices something is different. Her eyes meet mine, and I think she understands, this might be our last moment together. She gently touches my hand, and we both feel the sadness between us. Her eyes grow soft and full of emotion. I can tell she doesn't want me to go, but she knows I must. She smiles softly through the sadness, then turns and walks away. I stand there, frozen, watching her disappear. That was the last time I saw her. An hour later, I am ready. The boy and I climb into the boat. One man, our boss for the day, joins us. We sail away from the land, but the fish are hard to catch. "Let's go further," the boss says, pointing toward the open sea. Soon, the shore is far behind us. The boat rocks gently in the water. At one point, the boss walks to the front of the boat, scanning the horizon for fish. I act quickly. As the boss stands at the front of the boat, I push him into the sea. He splashes into the water, shocked and struggling to swim. He starts to make his way back toward the boat, but I grab a gun. When he sees the gun pointed at him, he freezes for a moment, then begins swimming away. I watch carefully until he disappears into the distance. I turn to the boy. His eyes are wide, and I wonder if he is afraid or angry. I need to know if he is on my side. To my relief, he nods. I can see he supports me. After 2 years, I am finally free. We sail away as fast as we can. The wind is strong, and the boat cuts through the water. By the next day, we are far from the pirate land, but we do not stop. We continue for days, letting the wind carry us further away. After 6 days, we realize we need fresh water. As the sun begins to set, we steer toward the land. The boy looks nervous, but we agree to wait until it is fully dark before going ashore. When we get closer, strange horrible noises echo from the trees and bushes. The boy grips my arm. "I don't want to go," he whispers. Fear is clear on his face. We decide to stay on the boat near the shore. But the night is long and restless. Suddenly, animals come to wash in the water. Their loud cries echo across the sea. The boy trembles beside me, too scared to sleep. Moments later, I hear something new, the sound of splashing. One of the animals is swimming toward our boat. The boy panics. "We have to leave," he cries, but I shake my head. I grab a gun and take aim. The animal gets closer, and I fire. The shot echoes across the water. The animal turns sharply and swims back to land. The other animals, startled by the noise, retreat as well. The boy sighs in relief. We stay on the boat until morning. As the sun rises, we eat some bread for breakfast. The boy feels braver now and asks to go ashore. "I'll go with you," I say. We pack our guns and bring large bottles to fill with fresh water. When we reach the shore, I stay close to the boat to keep watch. The boy continues alone, disappearing into the trees. After some time, I see him running back toward me. My heart races. I think he is being chased. I grab my gun, ready to protect him, but I see nothing behind him. As he gets closer, I realize he is smiling. In his hands, he carries a chicken. "We have food," he shouts, his face full of joy. I laugh and feel relief. Fresh water and good meat. We are lucky. We explore carefully but do not see any dangerous animals. The land feels wild and empty. I look around and realize I have no idea where we are. The only thing I know is that we are somewhere near Africa, on land where no people seem to live. But for now, we are safe. We hear only the sounds of animals around us. One day, while searching for fresh water, we come across a lion sleeping on the beach. He is massive, his golden fur glowing in the sunlight. He lies just 20 meters away from us. The boy freezes in fear. His eyes are wide, and he grabs my arm tightly. Suddenly, the lion's eyes flick open. For a moment, he stares at us. Then, with a deep growl, he charges toward us. I don't have much time. My heart pounds as I reach for my gun. I have 3 guns. I fire the first shot. It hits his leg. The lion roars in pain but keeps coming. I pull the trigger again. The second bullet strikes his head. He stumbles but still tries to move. I fire the third shot. This time, the lion falls to the ground, lifeless. We stand there, breathing hard, staring at the huge animal. The boy is still shaking, but I place a hand on his shoulder. "It's over," I say quietly. We cannot eat the lion's meat, it doesn't seem safe. But we decide to take the lion's skin. Carefully, we remove the skin and lay it on the boat. It dries quickly under the sun. We continue our journey, stopping only when we need fresh water. After days of sailing, we notice signs of life. We see small huts and smoke rising from the land. One day, as we sail near the coast, we spot a large group of people gathered on the beach. They stand watching us, with many children running around them. I feel hopeful. I want to stop and meet them, I tell the boy, but the boy shakes his head nervously. "I don't think we should," he whispers. "What if they hurt us?" The people seem friendly, waving at us. 2 of them run toward the forest and return carrying food. They stand at the edge of the beach, waiting for us to come closer. But the boy still doesn't want to go ashore. The people hesitate. They don't want to swim out to us either. For a moment, we all stand there, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the people understand. They place the food on the ground and step back, giving us space. Once they are far enough, the boy and I row closer to shore. We carefully take the food, waving in thanks. The people smile and begin to approach us, no longer strangers. We feel more comfortable now. But as we begin to talk to the people, something happens. from the hills above. Two large animals come running toward the beach, the people panic. Children scream and scatter. One of the animals, a large wild cat, leaps toward a young girl. I don't think, I just grab my gun and shoot. The bullet hits the animal, and it collapses. The second animal, startled by the noise, turns and runs away. For a moment, everything is silent. The people stare at me, their faces filled with shock and awe. They look at the fallen animal, then at my gun, whispering to each other. Some seem afraid. I lower the gun and offer a small smile, hoping to show them that I mean no harm. The people step closer, carefully. One of the men touches his heart and nods to me in gratitude. I saved the girl, and now, I feel that we have gained their trust. The people cheer when they see the animal is dead. Relief washes over the crowd, and they gather around the young girl, who is unharmed. They thank us many times, offering even more food and water. Now, our boat is full of supplies. We wave goodbye to the kind people and continue our journey. The next day, as we sail, we spot some islands in the distance. I think we should visit those islands, I say, steering the boat toward them, but before we get closer, the boy suddenly starts shouting. His voice trembles with fear. "A ship!" he cries, pointing at the horizon. I squint and see the outline of a ship approaching. The boy grips my arm tightly. "It's a pirate ship," he says, panic in his voice. I raise my gun, ready to defend us if needed. But as the ship sails closer, I take a better look. I smile with relief. "It's not a pirate ship," I say. "It's Portuguese." Still, no one on the ship notices us. I fire a shot into the air. The loud noise echoes over the water. The men on the ship hear it. They spot us and wave. Soon, we are welcomed aboard the Portuguese ship. The sailors speak Portuguese, Spanish, and French, but I don't understand much of what they say. As I stand there, unsure of what to do, one sailor steps forward. His accent is familiar. "You're Scottish." I exclaim with relief. He says, smiling. "I can help you." I tell him our story, about the pirates, the escape, and the long journey. The sailors listen carefully. They are kind and offer us food and a place to rest. The boy and I feel happy and safe on the ship. The next day, I speak to the captain. "We don't need our boat anymore," I tell him. "You can take it." The captain shakes his head. "I won't take it for free," he says. "I will pay you for it. It is a kind offer." I smile and suggest a fair price, half the usual amount. The captain agrees and pays me. Afterward, he looks at the boy thoughtfully. "This boy," the captain says, "he's strong. I can train him as a sailor." I hesitate. "He's very young," I say. "He's been through a lot. He needs freedom," but the captain shakes his head. "Sailing will give him purpose. It will teach him valuable skills." I glance at the boy, unsure. To my surprise, the boy smiles. "I want to work on the ship," he says eagerly. And so, the boy begins his training as a sailor. The ship sets sail for Brazil, and after 20 days, we arrive. I stand on the deck, watching as the ship docks. It is time to say goodbye. I hug the boy and shake hands with the sailors who helped us. "Good luck," I tell him. He waves as I step off the ship and onto the land of Brazil. Brazil is a new state in South America, full of people starting new lives. And now, it is the same for me. I know no one here, but this is my chance to begin again. In Brazil, I meet some people who own sugar plantations. They are kind, and soon, we become good friends. I find myself liking Brazil more and more. Over time, I learn the language and settle in. With the money I received from the captain, I buy a small piece of land and decide to try producing sugar. At first, I don't produce much. The work is slow, and progress feels small, but after 2 years, my plantation grows. I remain single, but life is good. Every month, my financial situation improves. 3 years pass, and I finally have enough money to hire someone to help around the house. I ask my friends, "Do you know someone who could work for me?" One friend smiles and says, "I have a daughter. She's 18 years old. I think she could work for you. She's also an excellent cook." The next day, his daughter comes to my house. She is friendly but shy. Her soft voice and gentle smile make me feel comfortable. She is also very beautiful. We talk, and I explain what I need. She nods and agrees to help. The following day, she arrives at my house. She cleans the dirty floors and wipes the furniture. From then on, she comes every Monday and Thursday morning. She works for 4 hours, cleaning, cooking, and even feeding my cat. I always feel happy when I see her. Sometimes, after she finishes her work, we sit and have breakfast or lunch together. We talk about simple things, life, the plantation, the weather, but then, one day, she doesn't come. I later hear that she is sick. Strangely, I feel empty without her around. The house feels too quiet. I realize that I miss her. Thought enters my mind, maybe I love her. A week later, she returns to my house. When I open the door and see her smiling face, joy fills my heart. I can tell she is happy to see me too. Without thinking, I step forward and hug her. Then, softly, I kiss her. It is a long kiss, and for the first time, I know how I feel. 2 weeks later, I visit her father's house. I sit with him and say, "I want to marry your daughter." He is quiet, and I wait nervously for his answer. Finally, he smiles. "I agree," he says. I feel overwhelmed with happiness. 2 months later, we get married. Together, we begin to plan our future and start a family. This part of my life is great. My wife and I have big dreams for our family and our plantation, but to make those dreams real, we need a bigger house and more money. I start to think about business in Africa. I know I can make money there quickly. I talk about Africa often with my friends. There's a fortune waiting for us, I tell them. One day, 3 of my friends visit our house. "We're going to Africa," one of them says. "Do you want to come with us?" Without hesitation, I say, "Yes. I'll join you." We begin preparing for the journey right away. Soon, everything is ready. I hug my wife goodbye, promising to return in 2 months. In September, we leave Brazil. Our ship is large. But there are only 17 men on board. The ship carries many goods for trade, and at first, the weather is calm but very hot. 1 week later, we see dark clouds gathering. A hurricane is coming. The storm is stronger than anything I have ever seen. For 3 days, the wind howls and the waves crash against the ship. When the storm finally ends, we realize the ship is damaged. The captain calls a meeting. "We must return and repair the ship," he says, but I shake my head. "We've come too far," I argue. "Let's keep going." We discuss our options and try to find the best solution. That evening, as the sun sets, the wind begins to rise again. A second hurricane strikes. The waves grow tall, crashing over the deck. Suddenly, a man shouts, "Land!" I rush to the side and squint through the storm. There, in the distance, is a faint outline of land, but as the ship approaches, it grinds to a stop. The water is too shallow, the ship can't move forward, and every second, the waves threaten to break the ship apart. The captain gives a grim order: "We must abandon the ship." a small boat is lowered into the water. 17 men stare at it, knowing the truth: the boat is too small for all of us. But we have no choice. If we stay, the ship will sink, and we will die. So, one by one, we climb into the tiny boat, praying that it will hold together. The journey to survival has begun. The waves are huge, and the wind is fierce. It pushes our small boat toward the sharp rocks. We know we're about to crash. Suddenly, a massive wave hits the boat, and everything turns upside down. I am underwater. I can't breathe. I can't see the other men or even the boat. For a brief moment, my head rises above the water. I gasp for air. Through the spray and wind, I spot a small beach between the rocks. Another wave crashes over me, and I am pushed toward the shore. I feel the ground beneath my feet. I try to stand, but my body is weak. Before I can move, another wave pulls me back into the sea. I'm underwater again. My lungs burn, and I feel myself drifting away. But just as I start to lose hope, a third wave pushes me back toward the beach. This time, I manage to stand and stumble forward. I take a few steps, 10 meters, and collapse on the sand. I am safe. My arms and legs feel heavy, but I'm alive. After some time, I gather my strength and stand. I search for the others. I call out, but there's no answer. I walk along the shore, but I find no one. I am the only survivor. All my friends are gone. The only things I find are 3 hats and 2 shoes. The sight is heartbreaking. The storm still rages, but the waves aren't as high. Out in the distance, I see our ship. It's far from shore, broken and battered. I look around. I have nothing. My clothes are soaked, and I have no spare clothes to change into. I have no food, no drink, and no gun. I remember that dangerous animals may be on the island. If one finds me, I won't be able to defend myself. I reach into my pocket and pull out the only thing I have: a small knife. How will I survive with just this? I whisper to myself, I need water. I wander along the beach until I find a small river. I kneel down and drink deeply. The cool water refreshes me, but I know this is just the beginning. I must find food. I must find shelter. I must survive. The night falls, and I grow fearful of dangerous animals. I can't sleep on the ground, so I find safety in a big tree, spending the night there. The next morning, the sea is calm. I can still see the ship in the distance. I swim towards it, but there seems to be no easy way aboard. I swim around the ship twice, looking for an entry point. Then, I spot a rope hanging from one side of the ship. I use the rope to climb aboard. The ship is empty. I search the ship and am lucky to find some dry food. I also discover a bottle of rum and take it with me. Suddenly, I hear a noise. Could it be one of my friends? But no, that's impossible. My friends are all dead. I move toward the sound, scared, and then, I find the source of the noise. It's a dog, the captain's dog. Now, I'm not alone. I have a friend. The dog seems happy to see me, and I'm relieved to have company. I need to take the food, rum, and the dog back to the beach, but there's no small boat on the ship. I have to make a raft. I gather some wood and begin building the raft. While searching for clothes, I find a beautiful carpet, 4 guns, and a box of gunpowder. I load everything onto the raft. The sea is calm, and the wind is pushing me toward the land. It's a good sign. Soon, I'm on the beach, looking for a place to stay. I see a hill in the distance. From the top, I can get a better view of the surroundings. I take a gun with me as I walk to the hill. When I reach the top, I see the vast sea surrounding the island. I realize I am stranded on an island. There are 2 small islands nearby, one to the north and one to the west. To the south, I can see a large landmass about 100 kilometers away. To the east, there's only the endless ocean. I don't see any people on the island, only wild animals roam freely. I am truly alone on this island. As I swim back to the beach, I feel the storm approaching fast. The wind picks up, and the waves become stronger. I know that I must secure everything on the island, so I quickly go to my tent and make sure all my supplies are safe and dry. The storm hits hard, and the island becomes a battleground against nature's forces. I take shelter in the tent with the dog, and we wait as the storm rages outside. The noise of the wind and rain is deafening, and I feel the power of nature in a way I've never experienced before. I hold on to the guns tightly, my only means of defense, and I try to remain calm as the storm intensifies. Hours pass, and the storm finally begins to subside. The island is drenched, and the air is thick with humidity. I step outside and see the damage the storm has caused. The beach is littered with debris, and the ship is even more unstable than before. I realize that I need to be extra cautious now. Over the next few days, I continue to visit the ship, but the danger of another storm is always on my mind. I make several more trips, bringing more supplies back to the island. I now have more guns, food, and other essential items, but I still feel vulnerable. The island feels more like a prison every day. And the thought of being stranded here forever starts to weigh heavily on me. Despite the challenges, I continue to adapt. I find ways to improve my shelter and learn more about the island's resources. But the hope of escaping and returning to civilization is always at the forefront of my mind. Each day I survive, I grow stronger, but I also feel the sting of loneliness more deeply. I remind myself that I can't give up. My survival depends on my will to keep going. The wind is still strong at night, but I feel safe inside my little tent. The ship is now gone, and the reality of staying on the island for an extended period sets in. I begin to think about making my living space more permanent and comfortable. I need to find a place where I can be safe and sheltered from the elements. After some searching, I find a nice spot next to a big hill that provides protection on one side. I set up my tent there, and I start building a fence around the area. There's no door to the fence. I use a ladder to climb over it when I need to enter or exit, with the fence in place. I start planning for the future. I build 2 tents, one large and one small. The smaller tent goes inside the larger one. The bigger tent serves to protect my food and gunpowder from the rain, while I live in the smaller tent. It's not luxurious, but it's functional and gives me some semblance of order. As time goes on, I realize that I need more storage for food. I begin to dig a cave at the bottom of the hill to store the food. The work is hard, but it feels productive, and it helps to keep my mind busy. I also work on improving my living space. I use stones and earth from the cave to build a terrace inside the fence. The days are long, and my focus on survival keeps me moving forward. Despite the challenges, one day, a storm hits. The lightning is striking dangerously close, and I fear that it might hit the boxes of gunpowder I have stored. The explosion could destroy everything, including me. Terrified, I realize I need to act fast. After the storm passes, I open the boxes containing the gunpowder and move it into smaller boxes and bags. I hide them in the rocks to keep them safe from the lightning. It takes me 3 days to move all the gunpowder, but it feels like a necessary task to ensure my survival. In between these tasks, I hunt to provide myself with meat. It's a break from the hard work and gives me something to look forward to. I also start to learn more about the island. I discover some goats and begin hunting them regularly, ensuring I have enough food. Despite the survival efforts, there are moments when the sadness hits me. I miss my wife deeply, and I think about my friends in Brazil and my parents. Traveling by sea was supposed to be an adventure, but it has turned into a nightmare. I'm the only one left from the shipwreck, and sometimes it feels overwhelming. Yet, I know that I'm lucky to have food, guns, and clothes. Without these things, survival would be impossible. I decide to make a big cross and place it on the beach, marking the date of my first day on the island. I want to keep track of time, so the cross becomes my calendar. Each day, I make a small cut in the cross, and every Sunday, the cut is a little longer. At the end of every month, I make a longer cut to signify the passing of time. This simple act gives me a sense of structure, something I desperately need. One day, while reflecting on my situation, I feel overwhelmed by negative thoughts. It's easy to fall into despair, but I realize I need to change my mindset. I decide to write down both the good and bad things about my life. First, I write the negatives. I'm alone on the island. I have nobody to talk to, and there's only a small chance I'll ever see England again. However, I remind myself of the positives. I'm alive, safe, and free. I have enough food, and though my clothes are far from ideal, I don't need much here. I also have my dog, who understands a few commands. While my situation is far from perfect, I can focus on the good things in my life. This realization helps me shift my focus and energy toward the positives, and I continue to improve my living conditions. I work hard to make my home more comfortable. I expand the cave and create enough space for all my belongings. I'm pleased with how well organized my life has become. My mind is clearer, and I feel more in control of my circumstances. I realize I need some furniture, like a chair and a table. I use the wood I salvaged from the ship and the rafts to craft these items. It takes me 5 days to make them, but the effort pays off. I also make more furniture for the cave and store my clothes. The cave has become comfortable now, and everything is well organized. I can easily find whatever I need. I decide to write a book about my life on the island, starting with the first day I arrived. I describe everything I remember, including my thoughts and feelings. Writing helps me process my experiences, and I find it therapeutic. Initially, I write 1 page every day, but as time passes, I only write once a week, focusing on the important events. Over time, my life on the island becomes well structured, yet it is never boring. There is always work to do. Each morning, I walk around the island, take in the surroundings, and then get to work. I have lunch at noon, sleep for a short while, and then resume my activities. In the evenings, I either relax or continue writing my book. One of my main projects is expanding the cave. I want it to be large enough to serve as my kitchen, living room, and, at times, a bedroom. As I continue working, the cave becomes bigger and more comfortable. However, I face a challenge when a large amount of earth falls from one side of the cave. I am not inside at the time, but if I had been, I could have been seriously injured or even killed. I clean up the mess and decide to take precautions to avoid such accidents in the future. I add long boards on the sides and top of the cave to reinforce it, a task that takes a week to complete. In December, the weather turns rainy, but the temperature remains warm, so I continue working indoors. I am not hindered by the cold, which makes it easier for me to focus on my tasks. Towards the end of December, I kill a goat for food and also injure another. The injured goat's leg is broken, and it can't walk, so I take it home and care for it. After 2 weeks, the goat begins to trust me and eats from my hand. In January, I travel through the island to explore and learn more about my surroundings. I find more goats in the center of the island. The animals are very shy, making it difficult to get close to them. I am determined to domesticate some goats, so I come up with a plan. The next day, I return with my dog, thinking that the dog can help me hunt. I tell him to sit, wait, and not move. When the goats are between my dog and me, I hide behind a tree. I shout at my dog, "Come here." The dog runs towards me, and the goats, startled, begin to run as well. I wait in my position behind the tree. When one goat runs close to me, I leap out and grab her leg. However, the goat kicks me in the nose with her left leg, causing intense pain. I can't hold on to her, and the goat escapes. This method is not successful, and I realize that I need to come up with a better strategy. I tell my dog to head home, as I need some rest. From January to March, I focus on working on my fence. It takes a long time because I want to make it very strong. During this period, I discover big birds on the island. Unlike other birds, these ones don't live in trees, they reside in holes between rocks. Catching them is easy, and their meat is delicious. I can also cook and eat their eggs. While working on my fence, I come across a small bag. I remember that the bag once contained corn, but now it is filled with some leaves. I take the bag outside my camp and empty it, as I need it for storing gunpowder. This happens before the rains come. A month later, I notice something amazing. In the same spot, I find small green leaves sprouting. It's young corn. I am overjoyed to see that the corn is growing near my home. This is fantastic, as I can eventually bake bread in the future. Something unexpected happens in March, but I will wait to see what unfolds next. I am inside my cave when pieces of earth fall from the top. I am scared, thinking that my work on the cave could be lost. I quickly run outside, and I see that the ground begins to shake. It's an earthquake. I am shocked and terrified as big stones fall from the hill, but fortunately, they don't hit my tent. The earthquake ends soon, but I remain too frightened to go back into the cave. I sit outside my tent, contemplating the situation. I wonder if it's dangerous to sleep in the cave, as another earthquake might occur. But I don't want to sleep in the tent either. After some thought, I decide to build a house. I start building the house in April, and it takes me 3 months to complete it. I am happy with my new home, but during the last week of July, I fall ill. I develop a high temperature and can't get out of bed. I feel extremely weak, unable to do anything in this state. During this time, I experience crazy dreams. They don't make much sense, but to me, they feel very real. In one of my dreams, I find myself in a pub located on my island. I want to drink some rum. But the waitress is lazy. She sits at the bar and does nothing, which frustrates me. I don't like lazy people, but I wait. Then, my wife walks into the pub. She hands me a piece of paper with some text on it. It's a message from her father, stating that I need to go home to work on the plantations. But I don't want to leave, I don't want to go back. I walk to the kitchen in the pub, and my mother is there, preparing steaks and soup. I taste the soup, and it tastes fantastic. Just then, 2 Englishmen come into the pub. They want to sell gunpowder. One man looks like a gentleman, but the second man is horrible. I tell the horrible man that I don't need their gunpowder because I already have a lot of it in my camp. The horrible man insists that I buy their gunpowder because they have traveled from London and want to do business. I decline politely, but the horrible man becomes really angry. Our conversation turns sour as he starts saying terrible things about me. I respond in kind, and the situation escalates to the point where he threatens to kill me. He draws his gun, and I start running away. He shoots at me, but then I wake up from the dream. 1 week later, I feel much better, but I still need to relax and sleep a lot. By August, I am fully recovered, though I still feel a little weak. I know I need to do some physical activity, so over the next 10 days, I walk around the island. I feel much better after these trips. Once I feel strong again, I decide to explore the entire island. I discover a new and interesting area, a valley with a lake, located in the central part of the island. In this valley, I find melons that are shaped like large balls and are very sweet. I also come across apples, oranges, and lemons growing here. The valley is beautiful, and I am tempted to take some fruit back to my cave, but I realize I don't have a big enough bag with me. I collect as much fruit as I can and place it in one spot. I return to my cave to grab a bigger bag and bring it back to the valley to collect the fruit. I really enjoy this fruit valley. The nature is stunning, and I start to think that maybe I could move here. However, the valley is far from the beach, and I need to stay close to the shore. I need to be able to see a ship that could save me if help ever arrives. I don't move to the fruit valley, but I decide to build a house there and visit the valley frequently. Step by step, I construct a small house. I build a double fence around it to protect it like a castle. To get inside, I use a ladder, and I have stairs in one corner of the fence for when I need to go outside. This project takes the entire month of August and the beginning of September, but I enjoy it greatly. The fruit valley gives me so much energy. I feel healthy and strong here. Sometimes, when I'm in the valley at night, I look up at the moon and the stars. I think about my wife, my family in England, and how they too are gazing at the same moon and stars, though we can't be together. I think about my family often and wish them the best. I also think about all the people who are looking at the same moon. I wonder about the places they live and feel a connection to them. At times, I feel connected to the entire universe, and I think about God. I have questions for God, asking why I'm on this island and why I'm still alive when my friends are all dead. I don't have answers to these questions, but I believe in God and trust that He knows what He is doing. This period marks the start of the rainy season, which lasts until mid-October, making it my first year on the island. When the rains end, I return to my valley house and see that the fence has turned green, with new leaves growing everywhere. This isn't just beautiful, it also helps, as it becomes much harder to see the house. The leaves around my valley house create a nice shadow, making it a comfortable place to stay. I decide to build a fence from the same type of wood around my first house as well. When the rainy season finishes, I plant my corn in the ground. However, I have a bad feeling that something could go wrong, so I decide to only use half of the corn. This turns out to be a good decision, as none of the corn grows. I then plant the second half of the corn before the next rainy season, and this time it grows successfully. Now, I have a small farm on the island. I noticed that the seasons on the island are different from those in England. Instead of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, there are 2 rainy seasons and 2 dry seasons. With this knowledge, I can now plan when to plant my corn more effectively. As I make longer and longer trips around the island, I realize I need a basket to carry more food. With a basket, I can bring more fruit from the fruit valley and carry extra supplies. I gather branches from the trees that I use for my fences and use them to make the basket. Once the basket is finished, I decide to take a long trip around the island. I pass through the fruit valley and continue on until I find fields covered in grass. The fields are very flat. And there are many flowers with a delightful fragrance. I notice a lot of insects buzzing around the flowers, and I see some large butterflies with wings 10 centimeters wide. There are also small trees around the fields, and I find nuts on these trees. These nuts are different from those in England, they have a different shape. The nuts I find on this part of the island are sweeter than those in England. I also discover some new animals, including wild cats and many parrots. I manage to catch one parrot, whose body is colorful with red, green, orange, blue, pink, and yellow feathers. This part of the island is rich in food, but I decide not to move here. On my way back, my dog catches a young goat. I save it and bring it with me, hoping to start keeping goats. I leave the goat at my valley house and prepare space for it in my first home. After the long trip, I'm exhausted and decide to relax for the entire day. I build a cage for the parrot and then bring the goat home. The goat starts to calm down. I also create a map of the entire island, marking these new places. Time passes quickly, and soon it is September, marking my 2nd year on the island. I'm no longer as sad and have learned to accept my situation. I appreciate all the good things in my life. My daily routine is now quite established. I hunt in the morning, cook at noon, relax in the afternoon when the sun is strongest, and work in the evening. I also spend time teaching my parrot, whom I've named Pole, how to say his name. In November and December, I face a problem with my corn. Wild goats begin eating the young plants, so I quickly build a fence around the cornfield, including a gate. I put my dog inside the fence to protect the corn at night. Soon, the plants grow tall, but another danger arises: birds start eating the seeds. I shoot at the birds, and they fly away. I now have to keep a watch over my field every day to protect my crops. At the end of December, I have my first corn. But it's not much. I decide not to eat it and keep all the seeds instead, with the goal of planting them to grow more corn in the future. To store the seeds, I need pots, so I search for clay on the island. I find some and begin experimenting to make pots. It's difficult at first, but after 2 months of trial and error, I finally managed to create 2 pots. I place them in baskets with dry grass in between for protection. As I continue to work, the quality of the pots improves, and I start making longer, but not very tall, pots. I fill these with seawater, and after the water evaporates, I'm left with salt. One day, I find a broken piece of pot in the fire, which has become very hard, almost like stone, and has turned a deep red. This gives me an idea. I take one of my pots, surround it with fire, and after 2 hours, the pot becomes very hard, just like the piece I found. Now, I need a tool to make flour. I take a large, hard piece of wood and create a hole in it. I place the seeds in the hole and use another piece of hard wood to grind the seeds into flour. The flour collects at the bottom of the hole. Now, I'm ready to bake bread. I mix the flour with water, then take 2 stones and heat them by the fire. Once the stones are hot, I place the dough between them, and after some time, I have my first bread on the island. The bread I made isn't perfect, but I enjoy it a lot. It's my first bread after such a long time. It marks the beginning of my 3rd year on the island. I begin thinking about traveling around the island by sea and realize it might be possible to make a canoe. I find a large tree and start cutting it down to make the canoe. However, after a few days, I realize a problem. How will I get the canoe from the forest to the beach? The forest is quite a distance away from the beach, and there's a small hill in between. The canoe is too heavy to move over the hill, and I become frustrated. All my hard work on the canoe seems wasted, and I'm angry with myself for not planning better. After 3 years on the island, my clothes have become very old, so I start using animal skins to make new clothes, including a cap. I also try to make an umbrella from the skins. It's difficult at first, but with time and effort, I succeed. By the end of the 3rd year, I feel quite happy. I have everything I need to survive on the island, and life continues for the next 5 years. During this time, I decide to make another canoe, but this time it's smaller and easier to move to the beach. The canoe is finished in June, and I prepare for my trip. I load the canoe with food, water, and guns. Ready to travel around the island. However, the beginning of my journey proves to be more difficult than I expected. I am in danger at the start of my journey. I have to navigate around some rocks in the sea, and when I attempt to return to the land, a strong current pulls me away from the island. The situation feels terrifying, and I fear I can't survive in the open sea. I don't have enough food and water for a long journey. For 2 hours, I fight desperately against the current, and finally, I manage to get close enough to the island. I am relieved and continue my trip around the island, feeling stronger now, knowing I can handle the currents around the island. Soon, I find a small river and try to go upstream. However, the river quickly narrows, and stones block the path. Unable to continue, I leave the canoe where it is and decide to explore this part of the island. Not far from this area, I find my way back to my house in the valley. Exhausted from the trip, I sleep, only to be awakened by a voice calling my name. "Robinson, where are you? Robinson, where are you?" At first, I'm scared, but then I realize it's my parrot, Paul, sitting on top of the fence. He's repeating the words I taught him, mimicking my intonation. I'm surprised to see him here, wondering why he's not at home, but I'm happy to see him. I don't return to the canoe but instead head back home with Paul. I don't make another trip like that for a year, and during that time, I stay in my house most of the time, focusing on making more tools, pots, and beautiful baskets. It has now been 11 years since my first day on the island. One day, I notice that I don't have much gunpowder left, and it starts to worry me. I need gunpowder to hunt animals, but my first goat is very old, and although I need meat, I can't bring myself to kill her. Eventually, she dies of natural causes. With my gunpowder running low, I realize I need to find another way to get meat. So I decide to build a trap. At first, I'm not successful, but then I manage to catch 3 young goats, 1 male and 2 females. I take them home and build a small fenced area for them, but it's too small for 3 goats, so I construct a larger one. It takes me 3 months to build the new, larger fence, but it's a great space with plenty of grass and water for them. Over time, the goats become very calm and soon start eating from my hand. Within 2 years, I have 12 goats, and in 3 years, I have over 20. I now have an abundance of milk and meat, and I even experiment with making cheese and butter. My table is always full, and I'm surrounded by animals, including my old dog, the goats, and my parrot. The only thing I still long for is someone to talk to. One day, I travel to the part of the sea where the strong current is. As I make my way there, I think about how strange I must look. I'm wearing a big hat, a short jacket, and short trousers, all made from animal skins. I don't have socks or shoes, but I wrap goat skins around my feet. I carry 2 belts, one for my gun and knife, and another for the gunpowder. On my back, I have a basket, and above my head, I carry an umbrella. My beard is long. And I realize that after 11 years on the island, no longer resemble an Englishman. I've become a completely different person. One day, while walking on the beach to check my canoe, I come across something surprising, a human footmark in the sand. I look around, but there's no one in sight. Fear strikes me, and I run back to my house, so frightened that I have trouble sleeping that night. I start to think that maybe it was just my imagination, or perhaps the mark was my own foot, and it feels silly to be scared. After this thought, I feel a little better and decide to return to the spot to check the mark again. When I reach the spot, I realize the footprint is much larger than my own. And I panic again. This time, I want to destroy my cornfields and my house in the valley to hide all signs of my presence on the island. Fear takes over me, and I can't sleep that night. In the morning, my mind clears, and I realize it's not so strange that people could live on the surrounding islands. Maybe this is their first visit, or perhaps this island isn't interesting enough for them to stay. I feel calmer after these thoughts but still feel the need to protect myself. During the following month, I build another fence around my house. I create holes in the fence so I can shoot through them if needed. Now, my house is well protected, and it will be difficult for anyone to approach. I also worry about my goats, so I divide them into 2 groups and build a smaller fence in another part of the island to keep them safe. I put one group of goats in a separate area, and though it takes a lot of time, my animals are safe. After 16 years on the island, something very sad happens. My dog dies. I cry for 3 days, feeling like it's my worst day on the island. Fortunately, I still have my goats. I go to them and, even though they don't understand my words, I feel they understand my emotions. They remain unusually calm and quiet, comforting me in their own way. It has now been 2 years since I saw the footmark in the sand. One day, while walking on the beach, I think I spot a canoe far in the sea. I'm not sure, so I keep walking, but then I see something that shocks me. The beach is covered with parts of human bodies, heads, hands, feet, fingers, and teeth are scattered everywhere. There's also a blackened spot from a fire. I feel both anger and fear as I stand there, unable to look at this horrible scene for long. My stomach churns with dread. I return home, deeply disturbed, and start to think about what I should do. I can't go out to sea with my canoe. I stand no chance against a group of cannibals in the open water. I also can't use my guns because the sound of a shot could attract them. However, I always carry my guns with me for protection. I wonder if, in the future, I might have to kill some of the cannibals to save their prisoners. I search for a place near the beach where I could hide and prepare for a possible attack. But eventually, I change my mind. I realize it might not be right to fight the cannibals. I don't know them, and they haven't attacked me. Perhaps it's not wise to strike first. I stop my preparations for an attack. Deciding that I will only fight if they attack me first, I keep my activities hidden on the island, being very careful and trying not to make too much noise. I worry when I make a fire because I know smoke can be seen from a great distance, but I need the fire to cook. So, I make a small fire, careful to keep the smoke low. One day, I discover a small cave near the beach in the forest. I venture inside, and when my eyes adjust to the darkness, I notice two eyes staring at me. I jump back, terrified. I wait, but nothing happens. Slowly, I approach the entrance again and listen. I hear something, a sound that seems like an injured animal. I take my gun and cautiously enter the cave. When my eyes adjust to the darkness, I discover that the cave is home to an old goat, slowly dying. I leave the cave and return the next day, only to find the goat has passed away. I take a moment to examine the area around the cave. It seems like a very safe place, near the beach, and a perfect spot for hiding. So, I decide to bring some guns and gunpowder there for protection. It has now been 23 years since I first arrived on the island. Life is much more comfortable now. I have many animals, including over 30 goats. My parrot, Pole, repeats my name and a few other words very clearly. I also have 2 more parrots that I'm teaching to say my name. One day, while walking to my fields in the morning, I spot smoke rising from the beach. My heart races as I quickly turn back and head home, preparing my guns. I grab my telescope and head closer to the beach, hiding behind a tree to observe what's going on. I see 9 naked people on the beach. They have 2 canoes, and after a while, they leave. Once they are gone, I go down to the beach and find that it's once again stained with blood and bones. My anger boils over, and I vow to kill them if I ever encounter them again. However, they don't return for a long time. Then, one evening after a major storm, something strange happens. I hear the sound of a gunshot coming from the sea. I rush to the beach and spot a distant light, likely from a ship. I hear another gunshot, and I realize that the ship is in trouble and asking for help. It's too dark for me to see the entire ship, but I know something must be done. I gather a lot of dry wood and start a huge fire on the beach to signal the ship. The men on the ship likely see the fire I made because they shoot again, and for a moment, I think I might be able to finally speak to someone. This would be amazing. I keep the fire burning until midnight, but no one comes to my beach. I don't understand it. Where are the men from the ship? The next day, in the morning, I spot the ship again. It's very far from the beach, and it looks empty. I don't get it. I was expecting people from the ship. I miss communication with real people so much that it's almost unbearable. I decide to take my canoe and head to the ship, hoping to see if anyone is still alive. As I approach, I notice that the ship seems to be Spanish and it's completely destroyed. When I get closer, I see a dog on board. He's ecstatic to see me, and I give him some bread and water. He's starving and thirsty. But strangely, I don't find anyone else on the ship. Where could the men have gone? It's a mystery that I can't solve. There are many boxes on the ship, some small and some large. I find bottles of alcohol in some of the big boxes, but they are too heavy for me to take back on the canoe. However, I do find guns and gunpowder, which I know I can use, so I load them onto my canoe. I also find some other useful things and head back to the island that evening with small boxes in my canoe. Among the items I bring back are new shirts, gold, silver, and plenty of gunpowder. this is more valuable to me on the island than money. There's also something else I've needed for a long time, shoes. I find 2 pairs of shoes on board the ship and take them with me, grateful for the small comfort they will bring. I make 5 trips to the ship, collecting all the useful items I can find. I store them in the cave and hide my canoe, ensuring that no one will notice. Afterward, everything returns to a semblance of normalcy, and time passes quickly. But my mind often drifts to the men from the ship and the cannibals on the beach. I can't shake off the thoughts of them. One night in March, I have an interesting dream. In the dream, I see 2 canoes filled with cannibals who arrive at the beach. One of their prisoners escapes and runs toward my house. I manage to save him, and he becomes my friend, helping me navigate the dangerous waters around the island. I wake up, but the dream stays with me. I feel that if someone helps me, it's possible to escape the island. Maybe I can even save one of the prisoners from the cannibals. Determined, I decide to keep a closer watch on the beach. I patrol the area every day for the next 2 years, hoping to see the canoes. My wish finally comes true one afternoon. I spot 5 canoes with more than 30 men on the beach. I know I can't attack such a large group of men. I have to wait and observe. I take out my telescope and watch them closely. The visitors start a fire and begin dancing around it. Off to the side, I see 2 men tied up as prisoners. After a while, the cannibals take one of the prisoners to the fire and kill him. They paint their bodies with his blood. It's like a twisted performance, but it's not a show, it's real, and it's horrifying. I feel helpless, knowing that I can't do anything with so many cannibals around. However, the second prisoner is still waiting. When the cannibals aren't looking, he makes a run for it, heading straight toward my direction. I quickly run to the beach and hide behind a tree. Watching carefully. Only 2 cannibals chase after him. This is the moment I've been waiting for. It's my chance to save the prisoner. The prisoner runs fast, but the cannibals are faster, getting closer and closer to him. I ready 2 guns, waiting behind the tree, preparing for the right moment. The man is running directly toward my tree, but he doesn't see me. He runs around it, and that's when the first cannibal gets close to me. I jump out from behind the tree, catching him by surprise. I shoot him. The second cannibal sees what happens and tries to shoot an arrow at me, but I don't hesitate. I shoot him too. The prisoner halts when he hears the gunshots. He turns, startled and frightened. I smile at him, signaling that it's okay to come closer. He approaches, kneels down, and lowers his head to the ground. He takes my foot and places it on his head as a sign of respect. I show him that it's okay for him to stand. He stands up and looks at the dead cannibals. He examines their bodies, probably unable to comprehend how they died. It's all so unbelievable to him. He collects arrows from the dead men, and we take their bodies, hiding them in the forest. Then, we head into the deeper forest. I lead the man to my cave, which remains my secret haven. No one will find us there. I give him bread, meat, and water. He is exhausted and falls asleep immediately. I take this opportunity to observe him closely. He is young, slim but very strong, probably around 25 years old. His long black hair and dark skin give him an impressive and pleasant appearance. I let him sleep, and I go outside to sit near the cave, watching the surroundings. I know some cannibals might come looking for us, but they don't. We remain safe, 3 hours later, the man emerges from the cave, showing me how happy he is to be alive and safe. I speak to him and give him a name Friday, because it's Friday today. I tell him my name and teach him words like yes and no. We stay in the cave for the night. The next day, we go to the top of the hill. I use my telescope and see that the canoes are gone. We are alone on the island. We cautiously head to the beach. First, we go to the place where the bodies of the dead cannibals are. When we find them, Friday expresses a desire to eat them. I am angry and show him that it's not good to eat them. It becomes clear to me that Friday was once a cannibal himself. We bury the cannibals and then walk to the beach. What we see is horrifying: human bones scattered across the sand, with the sand stained red from blood. We gather all the body parts and prepare a large fire to burn them. We go back to my house, and I build a small tent for Friday. It's between the two fences that surround my house. At first, I am a little scared, unsure whether Friday might harm me, but over time, I see that I have nothing to fear. Friday is a good man. He's like a son to me, and I am like a father to him. He shows me, through his actions, that he would give his life for me. I am so grateful to have Friday on the island. I begin to teach him everything he needs to know about life, as I would teach a European. I start with simple words like hi, hello, bye, and thank you. It isn't easy at the beginning, but I am patient, and I am so happy to finally be able to speak to someone. I'm happy that Friday is on the island. I want to show him what I eat, so I shoot a young goat. Friday is scared of the gun and doesn't understand how such a small thing can kill a goat. He refuses to touch the gun. We make a soup, and while I cook, Friday goes to the forest to gather some herbs. He puts them in the soup, and the herb tastes similar to pepper. The soup smells and tastes fantastic. The next day, we cook goat meat with sauce again. Friday brings more herbs and plants, which make the sauce taste great. We also make a nice salad from the plants. I teach Friday how to prepare corn and bake bread. Soon, he is able to bake very good bread. We decide to make my field bigger so we can grow more corn. In all these activities, Friday helps me a lot. He can also catch fish very well. Our cooperation is simply great. We make a good team. I want to teach Friday English and I want to teach him quickly. I take my role as a teacher very seriously. I think about the best method for teaching him. When I speak too fast, Friday doesn't understand, so I try speaking slowly. I also speak only in the present tense and use simple words. I stick to short sentences, and soon, Friday begins to understand more. We talk about many different topics. When he doesn't understand something, I point at it or explain the word to him. If that doesn't help, I make a picture in the sand. Soon, Friday begins to understand many sentences and also starts using some words. His pronunciation is bad at the beginning, but that doesn't matter to me. I understand Friday, and I'm very happy that someone is speaking to me. Friday is a good student. He is clever and improves quickly. Soon, he can say some words like an Englishman, of course. Not all the words, but the ones he says correctly make me very happy. I see that Friday often repeats aloud what I say. I think that it helps him learn quickly. I think learning a language is quite easy. You only need to copy what you hear, and if you don't understand something, you need a picture. Then you need a lot of practice. This is the best system. Friday's progress is fast, he is able to talk more and more every day. In a couple of months, we can have a nice conversation. Friday likes my tools, they are very interesting to him. He especially likes the telescope. He borrows the telescope very often, goes to one hill, and watches everything around. One day, we talk about Friday's people and why they have enemies. He tells me there is a war between two groups of local people. We are neighbors, but we don't like each other. We have many conflicts. There is never peace. We kill each other whenever we can. Friday tells me that they eat human meat, just like their enemies. They also do rituals when they capture their enemies. Friday also tells me about the sea and the currents in the sea. Thanks to Friday, I learn more about the history, culture, and traditions of his people. I then tell Friday my story. I describe England and Europe to him. I tell him about our cities, schools, ships, and traveling around the world. I tell him that education is important in Europe and that we study from books. It's all new to him. Friday's people don't need schools on the islands, they have all they need for their life. When I feel that I can trust him enough, I show him how gunpowder works and teach him how to use a gun. I give him a knife and a belt. He is happy with my presence. He says it's not the first time he's seen such a knife. He tells me that some white men live with them on their island. He counts 17 Europeans. I think that these men might be the sailors from the Spanish ship. Friday tells me that they are okay. I'm happy when I hear that some Europeans live not very far from my island. I start to plan how to meet them. The next day, we go on a small trip around the island. First, we go to the cross where I want to mark another day. What is it? Asks Friday. When we come to the cross, I explain that we have 7 days in a week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When Friday hears the word Friday, he laughs. I explain to him why his name is Friday. Now he fully understands the meaning of his name. During the walk, Friday tells me that if we build a canoe, we can go to my island. I take Friday to the other side of the island and show him my canoe there. But he says, this canoe is too small for 2 people. We have to make a bigger canoe. So we start to make a bigger canoe. We have to cut a big tree, and I show him how to cut the inside of the tree. It takes us a month to make the canoe, and it takes us 2 days to move it to the beach. The canoe is ready, and we are ready too. The day before we want to go, Friday goes to the beach. He comes back very quickly, looking very scared. He says that there are 3 canoes on the beach. He is scared because he thinks that the cannibals are here to find him. I tell him not to worry, we are strong, and maybe they don't come for you today. Let's wait and watch. We take 15 guns and go to the top of a hill. We see 14 cannibals, 2 prisoners, and 3 canoes on the beach. They stop close to the place where the forest meets the beach. It's good because it's easier to attack them and save the prisoners. We go to them quietly through the forest. I think about my right to kill them. I have no reason to shoot so many people who have done nothing wrong to me. After some thinking, I decide only to watch and attack them only if it's necessary. When we are very close to the beach, we see that the cannibals are around the fire. They start to eat the first prisoner. The second prisoner is still alive. He isn't one of Friday's people, he is European. The cannibals want to eat him too. I decide to save him if possible. We move closer to the cannibals, but we are still hidden behind the trees. 12 cannibals are still around the fire, but 2 cannibals go for the white man. When I see this, I prepare the guns. I ask Friday if he can do the same, and then we shoot quickly. From 6 guns, we kill 3 and seriously injure 2 of the cannibals. The other cannibals jump up. But they don't know where to run. They don't know from which direction the danger comes. Some run to their canoes, some stay on the beach. We continue to shoot, and we hit 3 other cannibals. After that, we take our guns and run to the beach, shouting very loudly. I run to the prisoner, and Friday shoots another cannibal who is near. I free the European man, and he says something in Spanish to me. I give him a gun. He is weak, but he can shoot. The cannibals are shocked by our quick attack. Our unusual guns scare them a lot. Only 2 cannibals try to fight us. We shoot them with our guns. Friday fights very well. He quickly kills 1 cannibal who is injured. The second injured cannibal runs to the forest, but Friday runs after him and kills him with his knife. Only 3 cannibals are able to escape. They jump into their canoe and start to leave. Friday shoots at them, but he doesn't hit them. It's dangerous to let them go because they might tell their people about us. We want to jump into one canoe and follow them, but to our surprise, we find another man at the bottom of the canoe. He is scared and didn't see the fight, only hearing it. Ropes are around his neck, and he is in great pain. It's difficult for him to breathe. I quickly cut the ropes. When Friday sees him, he starts to cry. Then he laughs and hugs the man. He jumps up and begins to dance around him, crying and laughing at the same time. When the strongest emotions subside, Friday tells me that the prisoner is his father. I feel tears in my eyes when I see the son's love for his father. This happy incident delays us, and the cannibals are already gone. Friday massages his father's hands and feet, and the massage helps him. It brings more blood to the hands and feet, and soon his father feels much better. When they talk, Friday suddenly jumps up and runs to the forest very fast. When he comes back, he has a bottle full of fresh water. He gives the water to his father, who is extremely thirsty. After he drinks, I ask Friday to give the rest of the water to the Spanish man, who needs it very much too. The Spanish man thanks me a lot. He has problems walking and is very weak. I ask Friday to massage his feet as well, which helps him. Then, I want to help the Spanish man get to the canoe because it's very difficult for him to walk. We want to take our new guests to our house, but Friday is young and strong, with a lot of power. He takes the Spanish man on his back and carries him to the canoe, carefully putting him inside. When the Spanish man is inside the canoe, Friday jumps out and pushes the canoe along the beach. Soon, we reach the place near our house. Friday helps our new guests out of the canoe, but they aren't able to walk. We have to carry them to our home. We face another problem when we reach the house. Friday's father and the Spanish man can't go over the fence. I think about the solution. At first, I want to pull them over the fence, but since the cannibals are already gone and there is no danger, we can stay outside the fence. We make a tent for them outside the fence and prepare soft beds for them. When we finish, I start to cook dinner. Friday brings some fish, and we cook it quickly. We have dinner together in the tent. Friday translates for me because the Spanish man can speak Friday's language. After the dinner, Friday goes back to the beach and brings back all the weapons. The next day, we bury the bodies of the killed cannibals. It's a lot of work. I speak with Friday's father the next morning to understand what he thinks about the cannibals. I ask, can they return? Can they attack us? He says, no, they can't attack us. They are scared of the guns. They think that you and Friday are spirits sent from heaven. I'm still worried that the cannibals could return, but they never do. When our guests are strong enough, I begin to think about the journey by sea again. I ask the Spanish man why he is on these islands. He says that he is from the Spanish ship and that there are 16 Europeans on Friday's island, both Spanish and Portuguese. They want to go home but can't build a ship because they have no tools. I show the Spanish man the tools I have from the ship. He says that with my tools, it's possible to build a ship. I think that the Spanish and Friday's father can return to their island and tell the other Europeans about my tools. Together, we can build a ship, and then we can go to Brazil, Havana, or maybe even Europe, but the Spanish man wants something else. He says it would be better to wait for some time. There isn't enough food for 16 other men on the island. We need more food before we build the ship. I agree with him. He and Friday's father help us expand the fences and fields. We catch more goats, and now we have 50 goats. We collect a lot of fruit and dry it. We also prepare the material for the ship, and I choose some trees. I show the others how to cut the trees, then we make long and thin pieces. Soon, we have a lot of food, especially corn. We need more baskets and pots to store the corn. The Spanish man knows how to make baskets. And he has great talent. His baskets are excellent, and he uses a special technique that is fast and effective. He can make baskets 3 times faster than I can. I want to learn his technique, and he teaches me. I'm not as fast as the Spanish man, but I'm faster than before. We put all the food in my cave to keep it safe. The Spanish man and Friday's father can go back to their island and bring the other men here. We give them food and 4 guns in case the cannibals try to attack again. Then they take the canoe and go away. 2 days pass, and something unusual happens. Friday wakes me up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Are they here? I ask Friday. He says, no, but somebody else is here. There is a boat at sea. I go to the top of the nearest hill and see the boat. It's clear that these people are not the friends from Friday's island. The boat comes from a different direction, and I also see a ship. I know this shape, the ship is English. I'm confused. It's true that I'm happy to see Englishmen after 27 years on the island, but I'm also worried. The island isn't near any English shipping routes, and I don't remember any storm from yesterday. So why are they here? Maybe the men are pirates, or maybe they want to hide something on the island. I decide to be very careful. Friday and I stay in the forest and watch them. The boat comes to the beach, and I count 11 men. Soon, I see that they are all Englishmen. 3 of the men have their hands tied together, while the other 8 men take them to the beach. 2 of the prisoners are calm, but the 3rd prisoner tries to say something. The prisoner looks very scared and asks the men in the boat for something. When Friday sees this, he turns to me and tells me that Englishmen also eat people. I assure him that they definitely don't plan to eat them, but I think they might want to shoot them, after some time. We realize that this isn't their plan. The men from the boat start to explore the island. The 3 tied prisoners sit on the beach with 2 men as guards. The prisoners look very sad, and their situation is bad. Low tide comes, and the level of the sea drops. Their boat is stranded on the sand, and they can't move it. I hear them say, "We have to wait and leave with the next high tide." This gives us a few hours. Friday and I stay in the forest until dark, then, I see that the guards start to sleep. The 3 prisoners sit under a tree, quite close to us, but they are also far from the other sailors. We can approach them. When we are very close, I speak quietly to them, still hidden behind the trees. They can't see us. When they hear my voice, they can't believe that someone is speaking English from the dark forest. "What is that?" asks one of the men. "I hear something," says the other. "The tree can't speak English," the first man replies. "Yes, you hear something, but it's not a tree," I say quietly. "My name is Robinson Crusoe. I'm an Englishman. I live on this island. I can help you if you tell me who you are." After the initial shock, one man answers my question. He is the captain of the ship, but after a rebellion on board, the captain, his assistant, and a passenger were made prisoners. The other sailors want to leave them on the island. The captain explains that there are only 2 dangerous sailors who control the others. He assures me that 80% of the crew remains loyal to him. If the leaders are captured, the rest can return under his control. I say, "I can help you, but I have one condition: I want full control over the ship." The captain and the other 2 prisoners agree. They give me control over the ship and their lives. We free the prisoners, then head back into the forest. I give them guns, and we start planning our attack. In the middle of our conversation, we notice the sailors on guard waking up. They stand up and shout to 3 other men nearby. At that moment, we shoot the guards. The captain then speaks to the 3 other men, explaining that he doesn't want to shoot them, but they must be loyal to him and help him reclaim the ship. They agree. We tie them up and leave them on the beach. The other 3 men, who heard the shots, return. When they see the situation has changed, they realize they are outnumbered and outgunned. They also agree to be loyal to the captain. We tie them up as well. We hide our 6 prisoners in the forest. Finally, the captain and I have time to talk. I tell him my story, and he is shocked. He thanks me profusely for my help. Since he and his 2 friends are hungry, we decide to go to my house. I show them the results of my work over all the years on the island. They are surprised by what they see, but we don't have much time to explore my home. We must plan how to get the ship back. There are 16 men on board, and we are only 5. First, we decide to take everything out of the boat. We think that the sailors can send another boat to the island if the men from the first boat don't return by the next high tide. In the morning, we hear a gunshot. It's a signal from the ship. After some time, we hear another gunshot, then another. There is no answer from us. Then, we see the sailors take another boat and head to the beach. There are 8 men, and they all have guns. The captain tells me that 6 men are still loyal to him, but 1 is the leader of the rebellion. The captain thinks it will be difficult to beat them, but I tell him that we have a good chance to win, but we must act quickly. The captain trusts 2 of our prisoners. They promise to fight on our side. And we give them weapons. We now have 7 men ready to fight. We wait for the boat's arrival. When it reaches the beach, the men jump out and pull the boat onto the shore. They run toward the other boat but are surprised to find it empty. They call out to their friends and shout, but there is no answer. The sailors are confused and don't understand the situation. They start to put the boat back in the water, seemingly planning to return to the ship to report that something is wrong. When the captain sees this, he fears that they might leave the island forever, but 10 seconds later, the sailors change their plan. Now, they leave 3 men in the boat, while the other 5 head into the forest to search for their missing friends. We continue to watch both groups closely. The 5 men in the forest sit under a tree and discuss what to do. They argue a little, but after a long conversation, they get up and begin walking toward the beach. It seems like they don't want to search for their friends anymore. We know we have to act quickly, we can't let them return to the boat. I come up with a plan and tell the assistant to move more toward the center of the island. Friday goes with him. They begin shouting at the sailors, and when the sailors hear the shouts, they shout back. They head in the direction of the voices. Friday and the assistant continue shouting, drawing the sailors further away from the beach. This strategy works perfectly. And soon the 5 men are very far from the beach, which is great for us. Now, we go to the 3 men left in the boat. We explain the situation to them, and they decide not to fight. They agree to become our prisoners too. After some time, Friday and the assistant return. The sailors are now far from the beach and can't come back soon. We hide and wait for them. When the sailors eventually return, they are very tired. They head straight to the boat, only to find that the 3 men are gone. They call out to their friends, but no one answers. The leader and 2 other men head into the forest where we are hiding. The captain and Friday attack when the 3 sailors are close to us. The leader is killed immediately, the second man is injured, and the 3rd man runs back to the boat. We all emerge from the forest and rush toward the boat. The captain speaks to the sailors, telling them to surrender. When they realize the situation, they quickly drop their weapons. We decide to tie up the prisoners, but we don't tie all of them. The captain trusts 3 of the men, so we leave them untied. Now, we have 10 men and begin planning how to take control of the ship. After some discussion, we know what to do. Friday and I remain on the island to watch over the prisoners while the captain, his assistant, and the passenger disguise themselves by wearing some of the prisoners' clothes. Then, the captain and his sailors take the boat and head for the ship. When they get near the ship, they tell the crew that they couldn't find the other men. Once all of the men from the boat are on board, the captain reveals his identity, and the attack begins. Some sailors are injured in the battle, and only 1 person is killed, the second leader of the rebellion. When the ship is finally under the captain's control, we hear 7 shots, signaling that the ship is ours again. I'm overwhelmed with joy when I hear the shots. The captain soon returns to the island and tells me that the ship is now under my control. I'm so happy that I start crying. It takes me about 10 minutes to regain my composure, but once I can speak again, I thank the captain. He orders his men to bring a lot of food from the ship to share with us. We enjoy a wonderful feast to celebrate our victory and my departure from the island. We drink expensive wine, eat pork, beef, and vegetables, and finish off with biscuits for dessert. I'm incredibly happy to eat such delicious food again. The captain also gives me new clothes, which are light and a little uncomfortable at first, but soon I get used to them. After the celebration, we discuss what to do with the 5 prisoners that the captain doesn't trust. These men are truly horrible, and the captain doesn't want to take them aboard the ship as prisoners because it's too dangerous. I suggest to the captain that we should speak with the prisoners to give them a choice. Perhaps they would prefer to stay on the island, as staying here would be better than facing death in England. We approach the prisoners and explain the situation. They must choose between death in England or life on the island. I believe it's only fair to give them this choice. After some discussion, they decide to stay on the island. We place them in the cave, which is now our prison, and I tell them to wait for further orders. I take some time to prepare for the journey, deciding what to bring with me. However, I soon realize I don't need to take much. I choose to bring my dog, my parrot, my book, and a few small belongings. I also take the money, gold, and silver from the ships, which will finally be useful to me. I meet with the prisoners again, showing them my corn and animals, and I tell them about the island. Then, I board the ship. We leave the island in December 1686, 27 years after I first set foot there. Our first stop is the island where Friday's people live. The Spanish and Portuguese sailors are overjoyed to see us and are thrilled that we have a ship now. They no longer need to build a new one, and we can finally head to Europe. My dog is also happy to see one of the Spanish sailors. He runs to him quickly, jumping on him in excitement. The sailor, his former owner, is equally delighted and moved to tears. The sailors begin to prepare for our journey across the ocean. Friday has a difficult decision to make: stay with his people or travel to Europe with me. He needs some time to think. We stay on the island for one night. In the morning, I ask Friday if he's made a decision, and he tells me he wants to go to Europe with me. He prepares everything for the journey, and we are ready to leave. 2 months later, after a safe journey across the ocean, we arrive in London. It has been 35 years since I left, and the city seems completely different. Some parts of London have changed, and everything feels new to me. There are new houses, streets, roads, shops, parks, and a big bridge across the river. But not just the surroundings have changed, people are different too. Their clothes have changed, women have new hairstyles, and men wear different hats. There are new types of guns, and people use unfamiliar tools with new names. It's all very interesting, and even the music in the pubs is different. I hear new songs, and I like this fresh style. I wish to sing these new songs from London. I return to my hometown of York, but my parents are both dead. I find some relatives, my sister, uncle, and aunt are still alive. They are happy to see me but are shocked because they thought I was long dead. Because of this, I have no rights to the family's money or land, but they kindly offer me a place to stay and live in their house. England is a big shock to Friday, and everything is so new and exciting for him. He enjoys the new experiences, but he doesn't like the cold weather in winter. In February, the snow and ice are too harsh for him, and he can't understand why we live in such conditions. I explain to him that the weather is much better in summer. I send a letter to Brazil, remembering the address well. I want to know if my wife is still alive and if my plantation still exists, but after so many years, I don't know what to expect. In May, I receive a letter and some packets from my wife. She writes kind words to me, recalling the time she waited for me. However, 10 years after my departure, she no longer believes I'm alive. She remarries and starts a new family. Sadly, her new husband becomes ill and dies. It's already been 2 years since my wife has been living without a husband. I also receive a letter from her father. He's very old, but still alive. In his letter, he writes about the expenses and profit from my plantation over the years. They have sent me many nice presents, some beautiful skins, a little box full of gold, and boxes of sugar to sell. My wife also has a big surprise for me. She writes that I have a son. It's great news. He was born 8 months after my departure and is now a big man. He wants to meet me. So many things have happened in such a short time. I can hardly believe it. I want to cry, then laugh. All the emotions are overwhelming. I can't stay calm. I stand up, sit down, stand up again, walk around the room, laugh, and cry. When I'm a bit calmer, I start to think about what to do. I think about another journey to Brazil. I want to see my son, my wife, and my plantation. I wonder if I can move back to Brazil, but I don't know if my wife wants to live with me again. After thinking for a while, I decide to go to Brazil. But only for a visit. I want to see if it's okay to live there again. I write to my wife and ask if I can visit them for a few days. I send her and her father's family some nice presents with the letter, then I receive a letter from my wife. She writes that I'm welcome to visit them. Her invitation makes me very happy. I start planning my journey by sea, buying nice presents for them. 2 weeks later, I'm ready to go. I meet with my wife and my son. My wife is different now, but she is still very beautiful. My son is a big man, very strong and intelligent. He also has his own family and big responsibilities. He manages the plantations for the entire family and is responsible for a large piece of land. My son speaks only Portuguese and a little Spanish, and my Portuguese isn't very good after all these years. I can remember only some basic words, but with practice, I start to remember words quickly. In 2 weeks, I can hold basic conversations on many topics, and within a month, I'm able to speak very well. I'm so happy that I can communicate with my wife and my son. Brazil is also very different. People wear different clothes, build new types of houses, and the plantations are much bigger with many more people working on them. I spend 3 months with my family, and I realize that I'm not very far from my island. I think about visiting it again. I want to see the island for a few days. Friday also wants to visit, and my son wants to go too. I think it isn't a good idea because I know how dangerous the sea can be, but he wants to see the place that he knows only from my stories. We plan our journey. 2 weeks later, we leave Brazil and board a ship that will take us to Havana. We have an agreement with the captain, and he promises to stop at my island on the way. When we arrive at my island, we meet with Friday's people, who now live there. I ask them where the prisoners are, and they tell me that the prisoners are no longer on the island. They don't know where the prisoners are, and they think they might all be dead. Friday's people tell me that they don't eat Europeans, they only eat their enemies from other islands. I feel relieved when I hear that. I decide to stay on the island for a while longer, and my son agrees to stay with me. I ask the captain if he can take us back to Brazil on the way back, and he agrees. I see many children running around, and it's interesting to see so many people on the island. The people are very happy here, and Friday is happy as well. He meets a woman and likes her very much. Friday asks if it's okay for him to stay on the island with her. He knows that he owes his life to me and doesn't want to leave without my permission. I agree, telling him that he doesn't have to stay with me forever. It's time for Friday to start his own family, and I'm happy to see that he's found a good woman, and that they love each other. I respect Friday's decision to stay on the island. I spend a lot of time walking around the island, visiting all the places that I remember from my life here. One of my favorite places is the Fruit Valley, and I enjoy spending time there. My son likes the island too, and often walks with me, listening to my stories about my time on the island. After 20 days, the ship from Havana arrives. It's time to leave. We say our goodbyes to Friday and his people, and as we leave the island, I have a strange feeling. I feel tears in my eyes. I love this place, and my heart will always be connected to this island. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. See you in the next video.